Hi, I'm Lane Summerlin. I'm an educator at RhythmX, Carmel High School, and the Crossman Drum and Bugle Corps. Today, my clinic focuses on expanding your practice routine by adapting basic drumming exercises to mallet percussion instruments. These are exercises and techniques that I use a lot while I'm teaching lessons, ensembles, personally as well, to make myself a better, more rounded percussionist. I find that basic stroke type combinations, full down, tap up, various accent combinations, various roll combinations, various rhythmic combinations and coordination demands often come up in mallet riding, and these are skill sets that are often not addressed in basic front ensemble exercises, basic mallet exercises. So this clinic is all about challenging yourself to be a better percussionist, a better mallet player, by adapting and expanding your practice routine by incorporating more drumming exercises into your mallet work. The first exercise we're going to talk about adapting to mallet instruments is going to be an exercise called stick control. From the outset, it's important to know that the purpose of stick control is to make everything sound exactly the same, both in articulation and in rhythm. So we're going to go through and dissect the exercise first using only two mallets, and we're going to do this on one pitch. So I've got my metronome set at 65 beats per minute, and I'm going to have all the subdivisions turned on. So let's start by playing just the first two measures on a loop. 2, ready. Great, now I'm going to do the next two bars. Ready, go. Next two bars, ready? Next two bars, ready? Go. Now, as I go through these different sticking combinations, one thing that becomes clear to me immediately playing on a mallet instrument versus playing on a practice pad or a drum, there's no rebound off of this instrument. So I'm having to use my playing motion to create 100% of the stroke. I can't rely on rebound at all. The next thing that's pretty obvious to me is I'm not using any amount of finger really throughout the exercise with two mallets or four mallets to create any amount of the stroke. So I'm having to use 100% wrist 100% of the time to create every part of the motion, every part of the stroke. Now I'm going to do the last two bars. Ready, go. Now I'm going to try the whole exercise. 1, 2. Great. Now, the reason that I've been rehearsing this with my metronome playing all subdivisions of the 16th note is I'm trying to give myself a clear articulation, a clear sound to line my sound up with. So I'm trying to take the sound that the metronome is giving me, and I'm trying to put my sound right on top of that. Make everything be totally seamless between myself and the sound that I'm hearing from the Met. Let's do that again. Ready, go. Once you feel confident and comfortable with that, start gradually taking away more subdivisions from the metronome so that you have maybe only eighth notes, eventually working yourself down to only quarter notes. Then you can move to half notes, whole notes. There's a lot of different options here, but what you want to do is you want to have a clear idea in your head and in your ear of what that even articulation is going to be with the metronome, and then gradually take back how much information, how much help you're getting from this device. Now let's try the same thing with double vertical strokes. So the same objectives still apply. We're trying to make everything sound totally smooth, both in rhythm and articulation, but we're going to have a different technical skill set, double vertical strokes. The challenge here is going to be not only the two things that I've stated before, but not incorporating more arm as you're moving through the exercise, keeping everything led from the wrist, the proper double vertical stroke motion. So let's try just the first two measures again. I'm going to play these on a stationary chord. I choose D and A. So we're going to play this on D and A, and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to loop 2 bars at a time, making sure that everything feels and sounds comfortable with the subdivision. Ready, go. Thinking about a few very subtle things in my technique. The first thing is I noticed that I'm slightly adjusting my grip depending on what the sticking combination is, something that I don't want to be doing. Another thing that I noticed myself doing is using varying amounts of pressure inside of my hand, inside of the grip, as I'm going through each of these sticking combinations. So as you're working through this on your own, these are the types of technical considerations you should be trying to think about and the types of challenges you're trying to discover by using these different mallet exercises. Now let's do the last two measures. And ready. Let's try the whole thing. 1, 2, ready. accent exercises. I find that with most mallet exercise, most etude books, most front ensemble exercises, everything's written at one height. There might be some crescendo, decrescendo, but everything's pretty much written as a full stroke, which in front ensemble world, mallet world, we often describe as a piston stroke or a piston motion. I like to use the term full stroke because it opens up the door to the other stroke types, full, down, tap, and up, and it makes the language that we're using on mallet instruments more universal and more applicable to the other percussion instruments that we've got. So let's talk through this stroke by stroke. The first thing we need to understand is a full stroke. A full stroke starts up and it ends up. It's a loud note followed by another loud note. The next stroke type we're going to talk about is a downstroke. Downstroke starts up and it ends down. It is going to be a loud note followed by a soft note. After that, we have our tap stroke, which starts low and ends low. This is a soft note that's going to be followed by a soft note. And finally, that brings us to upstroke, which is going to be a low height followed by a high height. It's a soft note that's followed by a loud note. Now let's work on combining a few of these stroke types together. Let's start by playing full, full, and down. 2, ready, go. 2, ready, again. Great. Now let's play down, tap, tap. 2, ready, go. 2, ready, go. Great. Now let's play tap, tap, up. 2, ready, go. 2, ready, again. And finally, let's do tap, up, full. 2, ready, go. Ready, again. Great. So now let's work through this 8-4-2-1 accent exercise. I'm going to play through the whole thing for you. I'm going to do this with all of my right hand, and I'm going to say the stroke types out loud as we go through the exercise. So from the beginning, we've got full, 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 down, tap, tap, up, full, 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 down, tap, 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 up, full, 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 down, full, down, tap, up, full, down, tap, up, full, down, tap, up, full, down, tap, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Once you're comfortable with that, let's apply it to double vertical strokes. We're going to play both hands together. I'm going to play this on E and B natural. We're going to go through the same exercises before, but we're going to focus on applying the full down tap up stroke types and these accent patterns to double vertical strokes. Again, something that many mallet players often aren't focusing on, navigating these different stroke types, applying them to double vertical strokes. As we're doing this, check out the amount of forearm you have in your stroke. It should be relatively the same throughout, although we are changing heights, but you want to make sure that your motion isn't turning into a bunch of elbow arm led motion, but again, leading everything from the wrist throughout. 1, 2, ready, go. The next exercise we're going to talk about is using a basic paradiddle exercise. Let's break down a paradiddle by stroke types. So one single paradiddle is down, up, tap, tap. Again, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap, down, up, tap, tap. Or for the paradiddle diddle, down, tap, tap, up, tap, tap, down, tap, tap, up, tap, tap. Once you're comfortable with those stroke types and those sticking combinations, play through the exercise on one surface using 2 mallets. Once you're comfortable with that, take the same exercise and apply double vertical strokes to it. So the same concept of full down, tap, and up applied throughout the rudiment, you're still going to work on, but while playing with double vertical strokes. Let's break down paradiddles for a few minutes using only double vertical strokes. So we're going to stay on one chord and we're going to play alternating paradiddles. Paradiddle diddle. Once you're comfortable with that, play the paradiddle exercise on a stationary chord. Once you're comfortable with that, apply that exercise to the ascending broccoli chord progression. The next exercise we're going to talk about adapting to mallet instruments are going to be roll exercises. This is one of the ones that I've had more fun with and one of the ones that you can be more creative with. So with this exercise, I'm thinking about everything as double strokes, open diddles. The equivalent of a double stroke on a marimba is going to be a lateral motion. I think this is easiest described as one turn of the wrist combined with one rotation of the arm. This is one motion that has 2 notes that occur from it. So for example, this is a lateral motion. So I've used gallop today as the example for a roll exercise that we're going to adapt to the mallet instruments. For all of the doubles, we're replacing or inserting a lateral motion. I've chosen to take all of the single strokes and insert a double vertical stroke. You could use a single independent stroke. There's a bunch of different options here, but for today's purpose, that's what I've chosen to do. Again, all of the double strokes are going to be lateral motions, and all of the single strokes are going to be double vertical strokes. Now, when you're picking different permutations, different sticking combinations to use for the lateral motions, you've got 4 options. You can go in to out, out to in, left to right, or right to left. Today, I've chosen only to go left to right. So let's start by breaking down just the first measure of this. So this would be the check portion of this. This is what your wrist is doing with the double vertical motion. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Outlined with your right and your left hand. Now I'm going to add in the lateral motion, the double rights. So this, a fully connected motion, 1 turn of the wrist followed by 1 full rotation of the arm. Now, as you continue through the exercise, you're going to have different combinations of those stickings, but again, what you're focusing on is taking what would have been this type of double stroke motion, and you're combining that into 1 lateral motion. There's a lot of different opportunities here for various roll exercises: 16th note, 1-note diddle, triplet diddle, 3 camps, short, short, long. Again, the options here for you to be creative with how you're going to insert lateral motions on top of double strokes is pretty exciting and should keep you busy for a long time. Next up, we've got timing exercises. For a basic timing exercise, I've come up with 4 different ways that you could adapt that exercise for a mallet instrument. The first is playing it 2 mallets on 1 note. The second is playing it with 4 mallets, maybe using double vertical strokes, alternating between your hands. The third way is using alternating strokes, reading through the whole exercise on just one hand. And then the fourth way is using it sort of as a coordination exercise. I'm going to put a constant check in one hand while I read through the timing exercise in my other hand. Let's start by just playing through this exercise on 1 note. Great. Not only are you dealing with an instrument that has no rebound, you're dealing with sticks, mallets that are much smaller than snare drum sticks, but you're dealing with stroke types, full strokes, that might be affected by the different rhythmic combinations. And that's something that I've experienced a lot with younger mallet players. As soon as we start to do timing exercises on a mallet instrument, there's a totally different skill set or technical approach to the instrument. There's only one way to approach the instrument. So as you're reading through these different rhythm exercises, make sure you're still thinking about playing with full strokes, led from the wrist, nice connected motions. Now let's do the same exercise, but let's read through it playing double vertical strokes on a stationary chord. Now I'm going to read through the same exercise, but I'm going to play all of those rhythms in one hand, and I'm going to alternate between the 2 mallets in my right hand using alternating strokes. Finally, I'm going to take and read the same rhythms in my right hand, and I'm going to oppose eighth notes against that with my left hand. I'm going to start by playing a measure of eighth notes with my left hand, and I'm going to bring my right hand in at the beginning of the exercise. The next rhythm exercise that we're going to work on is 16th note, 3-note timing. For this example, we're going to take each partial of the 16th note rhythm, 1, E, and we're going to assign each one of those partials to a mallet. So for all the downbeats 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to assign those notes to mallet 1. All the E's are going to be mallet 2. All the ands are going to be mallet 3, and all the uhs are going to be mallet 4. So this is not only working on timing through different permutation combinations, it's working on your interpretation of basic 16th note, 3-note groupings, but it's also giving you a little bit of a coordination challenge as well. exercise we're going to do is similar to the first that we did, in that we're going to combine both hands together to turn it into sort of a coordination exercise. So I'm going to take 3-note timing. I'm going to eliminate every measure of check, and I'm going to superimpose those rhythms on top of 8th notes in the other hand. Let's start by breaking this down. We'll do just our right hand for today. We're going to read through 16th note, 3-note timing. We're going to eliminate every check, and we're going to alternate between each of the strokes. Now let's try imposing that over top of 8th notes in the other hand. I'm going to start with a measure of 8th notes in my left hand, and I'm going to add in my right hand. Once you get comfortable with that, once you get bored with that, you can start to impose that on top of different chord progressions. So again, the opportunities for you to be creative with how you're adapting these exercises that are written for not this instrument to this instrument are endless. That's it. Thank you very much for viewing the clinic today. It's been a pleasure putting it together for you. It's been a pleasure recording it for you. If you have any questions at all, if you'd like to download a copy of the handout, if you'd like to download transcriptions of the exercises I've played today, all of this will be available for you on my website, lanesummerlin.com. I'd also be excited to hear from some of you and hear what basic exercises you've adapted to mallet instruments and how. Thank you. Nice day.